Robots, Valeria Laurent repeated. The vampire was still a shriveled husk, but she managed to step away from Jake and stand on her own. They're coming. I can hear them. Jake grimaced. He couldn't hear a damn thing over the station's alarms, but he believed her. Robots would be a problem if he was fresh. Jake was not fresh. He'd already used a lot of his magic breaking into this station and dealing with the guards. He was tired and low on mage crystals. There wasn't much choice, though. Stay here, he told the vampire. The blood he'd given her had been enough to restore her sanity, but she was in no shape to fight. I'll take care of it. Jake stepped out of the lab and into the corridor. The security door to his left was still closed. With any luck, the robots wouldn't have the code to open it. The other end of the corridor was occupied. 3 metal creatures. They were shaped like humanoid frogs. They were built out of metal and white plastic. Their bulging eyes glowed yellow. It didn't look like the things were carrying guns, but that didn't mean anything. Jake checked the ring in his left hand. A third of the mage crystal powering it had dissolved, but the enchantment was still active. Good. Jake was still invisible to sensors and surveillance tech. That would make things easier. The lead frogbot swiveled his head to stare directly at Jake. Shit! Did robots not counter surveillance tech? That was one of the problems with magic. It was hard to know the rules. The robot opened his mouth. Jake let his training take over. He thrust out his staff, rammed his well through the runes, and shouted, "Scottum!" A half-dome of invisible force appeared in front of Jake. It was just in time. A long metal tongue snapped out of the robot's mouth so fast it broke the sound barrier. The tongue crossed 50 feet of corridor and speared into Jake's shield with a crack of thunder. The shield held. The tongue bounced off. Jake could see the tip of it was basically a metal spike. The robot's tongue snapped back into his mouth. It shot out again. The other 2 robots shifted to either side of the first one. They opened their mouths and launched spear tongues of their own. Then, a chest plate slid open on the lead machine. A stream of plasma lanced out. Jake's shield stopped it, but it wasn't for long. He needed to shut those things down fast. Wizards like Jake were hell on wheels against living creatures. Robots and drones were harder to deal with. Jake could throw fire at the machines, but he doubted it would slow them down. A lance of force from his staff could knock them around, but it wouldn't hurt them much. Lightning might do some damage, but tossing lightning around in a metal hallway was a stupid idea. The machines stomped forward, still lashing out with their mechanical tongues. The door behind them opened, revealing 3 more. Jake needed to think of something fast. He came up with an idea that could work, but it wasn't a spell he could cast while he was focused on the shield. Jake slotted another large mage crystal into his staff. He tied the shield spell to it. The shield would be weaker without the reinforcement of Jake's will, but it should hold for a few seconds. Jake pulled yet another mage crystal from his pouch, forming a new spell in his mind. 2 of them, actually. The first spell was a fubar hex, an anti-tech spell he'd learned in the mage corps. It was a combination of disruption magic, an entropic curse, and an electromagnetic pulse. The fubar hex was a wild, dangerous working, very difficult to control, and a quick way to die if you used it inside a spaceship, or a station on a barren moon like this one. The second spell was a containment field. Jake had never tried to direct the fubar hex like this before, but he was pretty sure it would work. Hopefully. He shaped the field with his mind, forming it into the shape of a cannon that filled the corridor. He compressed it down further, narrowing the barrel of the spell, until it was just 3 feet wide. He made sure it was pointed straight down the corridor. He didn't want to angle it wrong and take out the station's life support by accident. A crack formed in Jake's shield. A metal tongue punched through. Jake was out of time. He rammed as much will as he could into the containment field and shouted, "I cast fubar cannon!" The energy blasted out of him in a rush. Jake's makeshift cannon barely held its shape as an explosion of disruptive energy cascaded out of it. The fubar hex made no sound, no light. An onlooker who wasn't a wizard would just see Jake pointing his finger and yelling. Then they would see 3 robots fall over in explosions of sparks. They would also see every light in the corridor explode. Damn. Did Jake screw up the containment spell? Did he just blow out the station's life support? A look in the window next to him reassured the wizard. The lights were still on in the lab he'd just left. Jake walked back into the lab. Valeria was on her feet again. "Alright," he told her. "Let's go." Valeria shuffled into the corridor after the wizard. She was slow, but Jake didn't offer to carry her. The vampire was in rough shape. Jake wasn't sure she could resist the urge to tear his throat out if he got too close. "You smell really good," she told him. "I'm not letting you bite me," Jake told her. "Not right now," Valeria agreed. "In the state I'm in, you wouldn't survive. But later? We might talk later." "I'm not letting you bite me," Jake repeated. "We'll see." Valeria gave him a small smile. Jake suspected she was trying to be flirty, but the effect was ruined by the fangs, and the fact that she looked like a dried-up corpse. The next lab they came across was empty. The one after contained a dead body. A big one. Humanoid. 8 feet of muscle covered in brown hair. Jake saw sharp teeth and glassy, staring eyes. The creature had been dissected. "Is that..." Valeria peered through the window. "Is that a Sasquatch?" "I think so." Jake shook his head. "It's a damn shame. They're peaceful creatures that just want to be left alone." The door at the other end of the corridor had been shorted out by Jake's spell. He had to cut his way through with his magic shortsword. They found more labs, more disabled robots, more bodies. Some of the bodies belonged to the Neurals who owned this station. The Neurals were aliens, purple frog people. They weren't dead, but Jake's sleep spell had knocked out everyone on the station. Jake considered taking a few moments to kill them, but he decided it wasn't worth his time. Several of the bodies belonged to supernatural beings. Several more were human. Valeria recognized one of them. "Monica," she breathed. She clenched a small, withered fist. "Those bastards!" Jake put a hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry." Valeria nodded, numbly. The vampire let out a shuddering breath. "She's not the first person I've lost. It's just... You tell yourself it'll get easier, that you'll get used to it, but you don't. You never do." Progress was slow. Valeria could barely walk, and there was a lot of labs to look through. Jake's tracking spell told him he was heading in the right general direction, but he had no idea how close he was to the woman he'd come here to save. Jake was getting more and more worried. The Neurals hadn't been careful with their experiments. Most of their subjects had died. Horribly. If that had happened to Rachel... They'd been searching for 10 minutes when they found another survivor. It was a 7-foot-tall biped with black fur, long claws, and a muzzle full of sharp teeth. A werewolf. The wolf was mostly skin and bones, starved. An arm and a leg were missing. The other 2 limbs were encased in steel restraints, holding it down on a steel slab of a med table. Silver chains crisscrossed its body. "Melanie!" Valeria shouted. She tried to open the door to the lab. It was locked, of course. Jake cut their way in. Valeria shuffled to her friend as quick as she could. She ran a hand over the werewolf's head, then gently shook the beast. "Melanie? Mel? It's me. It's Val." The werewolf did not respond. Valeria looked up at Jake. "Jake, she's not waking up." "It's the sleep spell," Jake reassured her. "It hit everyone on the station. Give me a sec." Jake placed a hand on the wolf's temple. He gathered in his will, but Valeria interrupted him. "Wait," she said. "Can you let her out first? I don't want her to wake all tied up." Jake considered it. The woman had undoubtedly been tortured. Waking a traumatized werewolf would be a lot safer if she was still tied up. The look in Valeria's eyes stopped him from making the argument. He gave a nod. "Okay." Jake raised his staff. He pulled power from a small mage crystal and channeled it through some of the runes. "Open sesame." The restraints came undone, but the chains stayed where they were. Jake sliced through them with his short sword. Then he placed a hand on the werewolf's temple. He gathered his will and said, "Vivifica." The werewolf's eyes fluttered open. They snapped to the vampire. The creature moved too fast for Jake to react. Wolf and vampire were suddenly on the deck on the other end of the laboratory. Jake raised his staff but lowered it again when he heard the sound. Sobs. The werewolf was crying. Her remaining arm was clamped around Valeria, and her head was buried in the vampire's midriff. Valeria ran soothing hands over the monster's fur, whispering reassurance. Jake watched for a moment. Melanie's missing limb showed no signs of regenerating. Odd. Lycanthropes were famous for their regeneration. The wounds didn't look cauterized. Silver, maybe? The neurals must have used silver. Damn. "It's okay. It's okay." Valeria's voice was low, almost musical. "I'm here. It's okay." Jake dug for his potion pouch. He pulled out the one labelled Full Restore. He approached slowly, careful not to make any sudden moves. He held the potion out to Valeria. "Here, give her this." Valeria took the bottle. "A healing potion," she frowned. "I don't think—" "It's a Philosopher's Stone elixir," Jake told her. "It'll work." "Philosopher's Stone?" The vampire's eyes went wide. "Are you serious?" The werewolf looked up. Light brown, very human eyes latched onto the vial. She let go of Valeria, flopping onto the deck with a whimper. Jake felt a surge of energy like a hot wind on his face. The wolf's body rippled and shrank. Dark fur gave way to dark skin. Claws retracted into fingernails. A few seconds later, there was a frail-looking naked woman where the wolf used to be. "Val," said the woman. Melanie held out a hand. "Give me the potion." Valeria handed the vial over. Melanie set the bottle down and pulled the stopper. She picked the potion up and flopped down on her back. "I think you should bite me, Val." "Bite you?" Valeria grimaced. I don't think I have enough control." "Bite me while I drink the potion," said Melanie. She frowned up at Jake. "Are you sure this is real Philosopher's Stone?" "It is," Jake confirmed. Melanie nodded. "It'll be okay, Val. I'll take the potion before you kill me." Valeria glanced at Jake. "It's dangerous," Jake told her, "but it should work. I'll help if I need to." Valeria hesitated a moment longer. "Okay." She crawled over to Melanie. "Do you want me to roll you with my eyes first?" "Better not." Melanie shook her head. "I'd rather keep my head clear." Valeria nodded. She wrapped her arms around the other woman. She struck like a snake, fangs sinking into Melanie's neck. Melanie gasped and grimaced, her only hand clenched on the vial. The vampire fed. Melanie kept the vial raised. About 20 seconds later, Jake saw her hand droop. He caught the vial before it fell. He poured it into Melanie's mouth. She swallowed. Philosopher's Stone was the pinnacle of alchemy. Extremely rare and hard to make. It didn't just heal you. Philosopher's Stone remade your body into the most healthy version you could have. It cured sickness and disabilities, reversed the ravages of time, and turned ugly ducklings into supermodels. A vial of the stuff was worth more than Jake's spaceship. The effect took about 5 seconds. Melanie's body flowed. Shapely limbs grew out of her stumps. Her starved body filled in, forming muscle and fat in perfect proportions. A similar effect was happening to Valeria, but it wasn't the result of the potion. Vampires needed blood to heal. Now that she drained most of Melanie's, her body was filling itself in. Valeria's skin smoothed and softened. She drank a few moments longer, then withdrew. Valeria looked at her hands, then felt her face. "Oh, good. I'm sexy again." Melanie sat up. The hole in her neck closed. She wiped the extra blood off it with her hand. The movement made her jiggle distractingly. Jake averted his gaze. "Are you sure about that?" Melanie asked. Jake could hear her smirk. "I think your minion's afraid to look at you." "Minion?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "It's not me he's looking at," Valeria replied. "You're naked, Mel." "Oh, right." Melanie paused. "I think my boobs are bigger now. Hey, minion, do my boobs look bigger?" "How would I know?" Jake replied. "And stop calling me minion." He took off his leather trench coat and held it in Melanie's general direction. "Here." Melanie smiled and reached for the jacket. "Thanks, minion." Jake pulled the trench coat away. "I told you not to call me that." Melanie scowled. "So what? You're just going to let me be naked now?" "Pretty much." Jake put the jacket back on. "You're no fun," Melanie chided. She stood. "So, who are you and how did you break out?" "I'm Jake Mundane," Jake answered. "And I didn't. I broke in." "He's from a mage corps," Valeria told Melanie. "He came to rescue us." "By himself?" Melanie looked dubious. "How? Why?" "A tracking spell brought me here," Jake explained. "I'm looking for someone." "By yourself?" Melanie looked even more dubious. "He knocked out everyone in this whole station," Valeria told her. "And he's been swatting robots like flies. I think he might be a full wizard, the real deal." "That's right," Jake told them. "I'm a regular Gandalf. Now let's get moving. You can ask questions on the way." Jake didn't wait for a response. He walked out of the lab. The girls followed. They asked questions and made jokes. Jake answered patiently and dropped punchlines where he could. The two of them had spent a long time being experimented on. They were hurting and terrified, and doing their best to keep a brave face. Jake could respect it. They passed more labs, more horrific experiments and dead people. The next several minutes were depressing, but uneventful. Then Jake glanced into a window and jerked to a halt. The room was another lab. This one was full of robots. All 8 of the things were staring intently at the back wall of the lab. The wall contained a shelf full of severed grey body parts. The parts were encased in steel. They were still moving. "What the hell is that?" asked Melanie. Jake peered closer. The limbs were long and thin, but the hands were nearly as big as his wrist. The hands were tipped with wicked black claws. The torso was as long and thin as the limbs, with skin stretched so tight Jake could count its ribs. Jake didn't know what he was looking at until he spied the head. The head of the creature was hairless, sharp-toothed. Its ears were pointy and misshapen. His eyes burned with malevolent green light. "That," Jake said, "is a wendigo." Valeria took a step backwards. Melanie just looked confused. "Oh, what now?" the werewolf asked. "An evil spirit that took over a human host," Jake explained. "Eats people, always hungry. Smart, vicious, and damn near impossible to kill." He stepped back from the window. "I'm not opening that can of worms. Let's go." "Wait." The voice was male, a gruff baritone with a hint of panic. "Wait, you gotta help me." Jake paused. Wendigos were capable of projecting human speech, but he'd never heard of one holding a conversation. That didn't mean they couldn't. Jake channeled power into his staff, preparing himself to fill the room with fire. "Whoa, hold on there, crazy!" Both of the Wendigo's severed hands waved in a frantic, placating gesture. "I know what it looks like. I'm not really a Wendigo. It's a spell." Jake kept his will ready. The creature's mouth hadn't moved. It was projecting its voice with some kind of ability. It was probably listening in the same way. "Then what are you, then?" "The name's Jim," said the creature. "Wendigo Jim. I'm a mercenary." Jake channeled more energy into his staff. Red runes flared brighter. "That doesn't answer the question." Chill out, Wendigo Jim chided. "I'm getting there. I'm a human practitioner, medicine man." Medicine man? There was a brand of practitioners that called themselves that. They were healers and channelers of spirits. Like most faith healer types, their powers only worked when they walked the path of the righteous. Some medicine men could borrow the abilities of animals, but they couldn't change their shape. Their opposites could. Good spirits weren't the only ones that could share power. There was another brand of practitioner, reserved for the wicked. Jake's eyes narrowed. "You're a skinwalker." "That I am," said Jim. Jim's head glowered. "It's the only reason I'm alive right now. These mad science freaks aren't too careful with their toys."
"Aren't skinwalkers evil?" asked Valeria. "Like, really, really evil?"
"People say the same thing about vampires," Wendigo Jim retorted.
"Point," Valeria admitted. "There are many hurtful stereotypes."
"It's not the same," Jake corrected. "The spirits don't give skinwalker powers unless you're depraved. A murderer, at the very least." "Oh, and your soul's squeaky clean?" Wendigo Jim fixed Jake with a knowing look. "I seen your medallion, mage. I know what the Mage Corps got up to during the war. Don't try to tell me you're all sunshine and rain." He frowned. "Bows?" His eyes went wide. "What the fuck?" "Stop looking at my spirit," Jake warned. "What the fuck?" Jim repeated. "I've never seen... How? What the fuck?" "What is it?" asked Melanie. "His soul could cast a shadow on a black hole." Wendigo Jim stared at the wizard in horror. "I've never seen such a stain. Who are you?" "Jake Mundane," Jake introduced himself. "Human practitioner. Wizard." "Wizard?" Wendigo Jim frowned. "A full wizard? Oh shit." Jim looked at Jake the way Jake would look at an armed nuclear warhead. "You're him, aren't you? The Endbringer. The one who..." "The Endbringer's a myth," Jake cut him off. He changed the subject before the skinwalker could ask more questions. "Tell me why I should let you out." "Because I can help," Jim asserted. "I've been watching since you cast that first spell. You've got maybe an hour before these alien pricks wake up, and you still need to find the control center and lower the station's defenses before your ship can come pick us up. I can take care of that for you." Jim considered. Jim could easily do what he said. Skinwalkers were incredibly dangerous, and part of that danger was the ability to know things they shouldn't. On the other hand, "How do I know I can trust you?" "Trust me?" Jim snorted. "Who needs trust? You're my only way off this rock." He saw Jake scowl and quickly added, "Look, wizard, I'm not a nice guy. I kill people and I like it, but I've got rules. I don't hurt kids, and I don't break my promises. You shut down these mechs and help me put myself together, and I'll do everything in my power to get us all out of here in one piece. I won't hurt you or yours except in self-defense, and I'll owe you a favor, which is no small thing. All I ask in return is you take me with you and deliver me safely to the nearest friendly space station. Do we have an accord?" Jake looked at the girls. Valeria said nothing. Melanie shrugged. Jake turned back to the skinwalker. "Swear it." "I swear it," said Wendigo Jim. "I swear by my own skin." Jake nodded. "Then I swear I'll break you out and help you escape. I won't hurt you except in defense of myself or another, and I'll take you to the nearest friendly station so long as you uphold your end of the bargain. I swear this on my power." "Good. We're all agreed." One of Wendigo Jim's severed hands gave a thumbs up. "Let's make with the rescue, then." Jake shifted the power in his staff from one set of runes to another. He started to shape forces, preparing another fubar cannon. "No, stop!" Wendigo Jim waved his severed hands. "There's a life support conduit in the wall behind me. A fubar could short out the whole station." Jake grimaced and dropped the spell. He looked down at Valeria, then Melanie. "Can you two fight?" "Like you wouldn't believe," the werewolf told him. She frowned. "I'm not strong enough to tear up a robot, though."
"I can," said Valeria. "I'll take care of it."
"Melanie will back you up," Jake decided. Jake drew his short sword. He connected a mage crystal to its enchantments. He handed it to the werewolf. "Here, this'll cut right through them." "Oh, magic sword!" The naked woman grinned. "This'll be fun." "You'll have to use it to make an entrance," Jake warned.
"No, she won't," said Valeria. "Wait here a sec."
The vampire disappeared. A moment later, she was back with an unconscious neural scientist. She looked at Melanie.
You ready?
Melanie nodded.
Then let's do this.
The vampire pressed the scientist's hand to the biometric scanner by the door. The scanner beeped. The door opened. What followed was so fast, Jake could barely track it. Valeria all but disappeared. She reappeared a moment later. She had one of the robots by the leg. She swung it into another one. The impact sent the other robot flying into the force field protecting the window. While that was happening, Melanie darted in. She wasn't as fast as the vampire, but she was a lot faster than a human could move. Her short sword bisected the head of one of the robots and lopped the arm off another. The machines reacted quickly. Spear tongues started out. The monsters dodged. Valeria continued to use the robot she grabbed like a club. Melanie moved in a blur, slashing. It was over in just under 6 seconds. All 8 machines were smashed or sliced apart. Melanie took her short sword and sliced open the metal restraining Wendigo Jim's body parts.
Damn, ladies, the skinwalker grinned. I think I'm in love.
Jim's parts wriggled out of their restraints and latched onto each other. In moments, the creature stood. 7 feet of grey looming monster with glowing green eyes.
Let me know if you need a job after this. There's a lot of money in mercenary work. Could you stow a little less, please? Melanie complained. You look scary as hell. Yeah, sorry.
The monster shrugged apologetically and looked away.
I wasn't prepared for that level of pretty and naked. It's been a long couple months.
He turned to look at Jake through the window.
You can lower the staff, wizard. I gave my word. No tricks.
Never hurts to be careful, said Jake. He let the spell he was holding fade and walked in.
Paranoid is a word for smart. Jim agreed. Now I don't know who you came here for, but there's no more survivors in the labs. There are, however, about 30 specimens in a stasis chamber on the far side of them. He thought for a moment. Also, I need a knife.
A knife? Valeria frowned at the creature. What for? He's going to find and skim one of the high-ranking neurals, said Jake.
It's the only way to access station controls, Jim explained. They're biometrically sealed, but once I transform, I can use them.
You transform by wearing people's skin? Melanie asked. Her brows furrowed. Does that mean you skinned a wendigo?
Hardest skin I ever took, Jim confirmed. Worth it, though.
He held out a hand to Jake.
Knife, please?
Jake passed over his silver dagger. Wendigo Jim looked it over and tested its edge.
And a thumb? Nice. This'll do.
How much time do you need? Asked Jake. I can recast the sleep spell if I need to.
Don't bother, said Jim. Give me half an hour. This place is full of internal defenses. Once I've got control, I'll kill every one of these alien pricks. He scowled. I think I'll dig through their files while I'm at it. Find out who's responsible for this little black op.
Yeah, said Melanie. Maybe we can bring them to justice.
Oh, sure, Wendigo Jim assured her. If by justice you mean terrible bloody revenge.
He gave the werewolf one last appreciative glance.
Anyway, I'm off. You'll know I've got control when these stupid alarms shut off.
Wendigo Jim disappeared. Valeria looked startled. Then she frowned.
He really skinned one of those things? It's faster than I am.
Stronger too, Jake told her. The Corps tried to use them during the war. Turned into a real nightmare. He shook his head. Anyway, let's move. He pointed at Melanie. Keep the short sword for now. You two are on robot duty. Wendigo Jim had been right about no more survivors. The labs were full of alien scientists and strange equipment, but he only saw one more test subject. It was a rotting corpse. The cadaver bucked and strained against the metal clamps holding it down. It snapped its frothing mouth in the direction of one of the unconscious scientists on the floor.
Is that?
Melanie eyed the creature warily.
Please tell me that's just a revenant.
Nope. Jake reached out with his magical senses. The cold, slimy aura of the corpse radiated with hunger and malevolence. It's a ravener.
A lot of terrible things were done during the Mage War, but nothing haunted humanity as much as the creation of the Raveners. The Ravener pathogen was a custom-designed interspecies apocalypse. A mix of virology, necromancy, and dark sorcery that could inflict any living thing it came across, and most of the dead ones. Valeria swore. "We're not going to leave it there, are we? If one of those things gets loose..." "It won't." Jake grabbed a medium-sized mage crystal from his pouch and pulled every ounce of energy out of it, channeling it into his spell. His will surged, shaping the power for the runes in his staff. The runes glowed with a wicked orange light. Jake leveled his staff at the dead thing in the lab. Fireball! Bright light flashed through the laboratory window. Fire hotter than a star fled to existence in a sphere in the center of the room. The force field around the window held for a few moments, just long enough for Jake to throw up a shield over the window. The shield caught the exploding melted shards of glass and kept the superheated air of the lab from escaping. "Holy shit," Melanie swore. "I told you he was a wizard," said Valeria. The fireball lasted for several seconds. When it winked out, there was nothing left of the Ravenger or the table it had been strapped to. Or anything else, really. All the equipment and cabinets were slagged, melted, or still on fire. The metal that made up the floor and walls glowed a dull red. The effort was exhausting, but Jake worked hard not to show it. He examined the room for a moment, then lowered his staff. "That should do it. Let's go." He turned casually and continued down the corridor, carefully keeping his magic force field over the lab window. He didn't dare let it fall while they were still close to it. Jake and the girls found the stasis chamber after 2 more corridors. To Jake's immense relief, his tracking spell pointed right at it. The scientist Valeria was dragging around was shoved into the biometric reader, and the door opened. The stasis pods were odd. Jake had been expecting cryogenics, but the humans inside were suspended in some kind of energy field. Jake followed his tracking spell to a pod near the back of the room. There he saw her. Rachel. Dark hair and pale skin and big brown mischievous eyes. She was older now, of course she was, but Jake would recognize those eyes anywhere. The woman was wearing grey mechanics coveralls and a terrified expression. "This is her?" asked Melanie. "It is," Jake frowned. "Any idea how to get her out?" "Easy," said Valeria, "but I'll need a translator and I need you to wake this guy up." She waggled the scientist she'd been carrying around. "Here." Jake activated the translation runes on his medallion and passed it over. Then he touched the scientist and said, "Vivifica." The Neural's eyes fluttered open. He squealed in terror at the sight of the vampire. Valeria gripped the glass bubble encasing his head and made eye contact. The scientist struggled a moment longer. Then his eyes glazed. Valeria said something in the alien's language. The scientist responded in a reverent voice. Then he opened a panel on Rachel's pod and typed into a console. The pod opened with a hiss. The energy field holding Rachel in place cut out. Rachel cried out as she fell to the deck. She scrambled to her knees, eyes darting frantically. Her gaze settled on Jake and she froze. "What? Jake?" "Rachel?" Jake gave her a nod. "Good to see you." "What are you doing here?" Rachel pointed at Melanie. "And why is there a naked girl?" "Because the wizard's got no sense of humor," Melanie muttered. "Your mom called me," Jake explained. "Said you'd gone missing, so I came to find you." "Came to find me?" Rachel stared at him. Some of the fear drained out of her. She climbed to her feet. "It was the Neurals. They attacked my ship, took everyone." "We're on a Neural station now," Jake informed her. "Some kind of covert facility, experimenting on humans and preternaturals." He saw her anxiety spike and quickly added, "It's okay. The Neurals have been neutralized. You're safe." Rachel considered that, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she frowned. "How did you find me?" "Tracking spell," Jake shrugged. "I still had your hair." "You kept my hair?" "I keep everybody's hair," Jake shrugged again. "What for?" Rachel demanded.
In case you get abducted by aliens and I have to track you down, Jake told her. You're welcome, by the way. He's got you there, said Valeria.
I dunno, Melanie disagreed. Just 'cause it worked out doesn't mean it's not creepy.
Says the naked girl covered in blood, Jake quipped.
I wouldn't be naked if you'd lend me your coat, Melanie pointed out.
I would have lent you my coat, Jake reminded her, if you hadn't insulted me.
Being my minion's not an insult, Melanie huffed. Most guys would give up a kidney for something like that.
It's true, Valeria backed her up. Most guys are kind of stupid. He's not your minion, Rachel said firmly. Jake glanced at Rachel in surprise. She smirked and continued. Jake came here for me. He's my minion. Really, Rachel? Jake gave her a look. Quiet, minion, Rachel commanded with a smirk. Your mistress is doing a bit. Jake opened his mouth to retort, but closed it when the station alarms all cut out at once. Wendigo Jim's voice crackled through the station comms.
Attention all humans, monsters and naked ladies. This is Wendigo Jim. This station is now under my complete control. Tell the wizard he can call in his ship now. Oh, and stay in the stasis chamber for a few more minutes. The rest of the station is very unhealthy right now.
I hear you, Jim, Jake said aloud. He didn't know if the skinwalker could hear him, but it seemed likely. Jake tapped his sunglasses. Did you get that, Julia? I got it. Julia's voice replied. Changing course now. ETA is 7 hours, 19 minutes. Thanks, Jules. Jake turned to Valeria. Can you have your mind control scientist let everyone else out? Sure. Valeria spoke to the Norval again. He moved to the next stasis pod. We're still going to kill him, right? No survivors, Jake agreed. But let's get some information out of him first. I think Jim was right. The people responsible for this should face justice. Justice? The vampire raised an eyebrow. Don't you mean terrible bloody revenge? Yes, Jake told her. I mean terrible bloody revenge.